episode 10 already. Thank you so much for joining me on Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. We are going to be bringing in one of my favorite human beings, as well as just performers and just all around great guy, Mr. Tom McBeath, in just a moment here. And we have a lot to talk about, so I'm just going to cut right to it. So before we get started with Tom, if you like Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click that like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm, and it's definitely going to help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend, and if you want to get notified about future episodes, click that subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. This is key if you plan on watching live, because these talent are working and schedules change all the time. And clips of this live stream will hopefully be released over the course of the next several days on both Dial the Gate and thegateworld.net YouTube channels. Without further ado, Mr. Tom McBeath.
Hello, all.
Hello, Harry. How are you, my friend?
I'm, for an old guy, I'm really great, actually.
How are things going? Have you been keeping busy?
Well, it's, you know what, again, I'll mention age again, because as you go through this life as an actor, when you get older, things slow down. So when you add COVID in, you don't actually slow down very much at all, because you're almost there already. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
No, there's been more golfing and since COVID, a lot of walking. And here in Vancouver, it's a beautiful place. We have the beautiful Stanley Park up here, and it's from my place up to Prospect Point, which is a beautiful place to see the Lionsgate Bridge go across to West Vancouver. It's about a 45-minute hike and then 45 back. So you get fresh air. And we've been doing some golf with the boys, and Karen and I, my partner, have been doing some pitch and putt, and that's been lots of fun. Haven't seen much of my family. I did get a little trip up to Salmon Arm earlier for my sister's. What birthday is hers? Hers was 79. So, but that's the only trip I've had. And my one brother and her are the only ones I've seen family-wise since March. So it's kind of odd. A couple of friends once in a while, and the golf guys once in a while.
It's been an interesting year for sure. You still having your poker game?
We have our poker game every Tuesday night now, and we have it on Skype. There's 8 of us, and we found this old Java poker game that only us members can play. There's 8 of us can play, and no one else can play, and it's just us. And we have a choice of games of there's about 20, but we only play 3 or 4 of them. Most of them have too many wild cards. But it's an old game from like back in the mid 80s or early 80s, and it's really low tech. You just have the poker table and the dealer. You know nothing about the dealer, and I suppose the cards are random. We sometimes think they might not be, but we're not sure.
You'd have to wonder, Absolutely.
We had 20. We'll have our 25th week next Tuesday. And then of course, the following Tuesday, we've moved the game to Monday so that we can hang in for the big election.
Absolutely.
With our friends.
Watch what's going to go down there. Tom, you have, for the past several Christmases, off and on, made it a point to study and bring to life my favorite literary character of all time, and probably what is my favorite book, A Christmas Carol. Kieran and I were privileged to talk to you about that role a couple of years ago. And I would love to talk with you about it now for people who haven't had a chance to see that piece over on the Stargate Command website. Talk about bringing Ebenezer Scrooge to life for me.
Well, the first time, the time I was asked to do it, this is maybe 6 years ago. I'm not sure, 6 or 7. I thought there's no way I can play Scrooge. My cheeks are too big, and I'm not a skinny rake, and I don't care how much putty you put on my face. I could never look like what in my growing up years I believe Scrooge to look like. The director finally talked me into it, and he basically talked me into it through also the designer lady who did the costumes and stuff. And when she had come up with the costume and I saw the drawings of the costumes, I, I realized that it was a character I could play, and with his idea of how he wanted to do it, I said yes, and we started off on a journey that continues to this day.
Wow. I'd like to show fans out there some of the images that your theater company was kind enough to provide to us. Do you have those numbers in front of you by any chance?
Yeah, well, I do, but if you describe the picture to me,
Okay, sure.
It is. It's just that the numbers were not in order, and
my apologies.
And I didn't write them down quick enough.
That's okay. I have a picture of you with Gary. Is it McKay or Mackey?
Gary McKay.
Looming.
Sorry. Yes, Gary McKay. Yes.
He is looming behind you, and you are on your knees, staring at camera. He is the ghost of Christmas Future.
He is, and he plays all the. He played all the ghosts. That is the scene where he looks at where he has to realize where he will be in the grave, in the ground, that he will be done, he will be finished, and he's never had to contemplate that. And through the journey of the three spirits, he's come to realize. Well, I think he realizes it quite early in the journey, what a jerk he is, what a jerk he has been, what a mess he's made of his life. And I think it starts to happen really early. When we first started rehearsals, I thought it wasn't till the end that he understood. But it's almost from the time that we'll see a picture later of a young boy that that is holding a book, and I'm pointing into the book. And
I can pull that one up right now.
That's actually Scrooge as a boy. And he sees himself as a boy. And he's left at the school over Christmas. Everybody else has gone home. And he's brought back to that feeling. And he's brought back to the imagination he had with the material that's in the book. And
that's all he has.
He's beginning to touch those things that meant things in his life that he's pushed away, he's pushed aside, and allowed money to take over everything. So right from almost that first spirit taking me into the past, almost from the beginning, the walls are starting to crumble around him. And that image with the ghost of Christmas past behind him, present, future behind him, the big dark figure. It's all the wall is gone.
Wow.
And so when he wakes up, he realizes he's still alive. He throws open the windows and he asks what day it is, and it's Christmas. And he realizes that he can still participate. So he gets out and participates.
In the book, it basically is the ghosts say, we're going to visit you one a night. And so he's shocked, as we are, that he hasn't missed it. And you talked about this character fighting through this journey, not wanting to change. He's perfectly content at being where he is. He doesn't want to become what they want him to become. But they keep revealing these things to him, and he's mentally just kicking and screaming his way, through this process.
Yeah. He does fight it, but he's taking it all in. He's taking it all in, and it is eroding him. He doesn't get a lot of it. Yeah, he does argue with all of the spirits. This of course is this version, this stage version. It is a version, and there are many out there. Michael Shimada, who directed the show, put this one together about, what did he say, 27 years ago in a production he did in Eastern Canada in Halifax. That show has been done there on and off for that many years and has been done in Toronto every year, often with the same cast or some of the same cast, sometimes switching positions as well. He's directed many of them, and each time he's gone to direct them or looked at them again to say, yes, you can do this, he'll do little tweaks and stuff. His play itself does not cover everything in the novel. It's impossible to do that. But the highlights that he brings out, the stage is the stage for this show is just a large sort of arc, like the Arc de Triomphe. It's kind of an arch like that with a big clock up top and cupids and stuff hanging off the sides, and a great set of doors in the middle that are used quite often, and two doors on either side that are doors that are built into the theater actually, up on the stage. And it's a beautiful little theater in Victoria from an old church. So there's, they can't do everything on it, but they can do a lot. And the set, the only change that happens is with furniture pieces that come out. And the desk that I sit at in the play is this thing that was probably 10 feet long and 4 feet wide on wheels. And the thing just flows in and gets stuck in place, and a chair comes in and books come out and flop down. And there's a couple of spirits that move around and help set each scene. Sometimes characters do it, but usually these two spirits do everything, and dressed as some kind of weird sort of spiritual things that no one can see, but they can see everything. And so it's got this beautiful theatrical quality to it rather than just a narrative. So it's really powerful that way. And it's a beautiful little version of a theatrical version of the novel. As I said, it doesn't cover all of it, but it certainly digs into love does actually conquer everything.
It sure does. Yeah, I have a picture of you with Connor Wiley here. I'm guessing that's his nephew, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what was the other one that I had here up just a moment ago?
The one was with Evan. The one with Evan, that's Cratchit.
Evan is Cratchit.
Yeah.
Yes, Evan Frayne. And you had a couple of different Cratchits over the years, is that right?
Yeah, we've had 3 different Cratchits.
Can you please talk briefly about how the typical Cratchit, in terms of how we normally perceive him being, the typical Scrooge, how we normally perceive him as being, curmudgeon-y and loud and everything else, and the advantage that you had of the size of the theater and your approach to it based on the intimacy of that production. I love this story.
Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're referring
to. Where you were able to talk, you were able to whisper and infer that, you didn't have to be loud and obnoxious because these people are just, they don't need all of that energy. You have to do is say just a little bit.
Yeah, I think it can be as powerful with a smile and a look of, don't you understand, you idiot, as you can calling someone an idiot. So if you can work on their self-confidence and all their weaknesses without yelling, you get much farther ahead in controlling people. Now, this all came from the director as well.
Oh, okay.
So the last time we did it, which was not last year, the year before, this we moved much more towards the guy who, on the front of it, no one would think, except those people that knew him, that he was a curmudgeon, because he could be personable, but He actually wasn't. He was very private, but he could put that mask on and protect himself. But it was exhausting for him when he would. There's one beautiful scene in the play that his housekeeper. It begins with his housekeeper, and we have the first scene in the big office, and that's finished. And he's yelled at, well, not necessarily, he's dealt with Cratchit, and he's dealt with his nephew and sent the nephew off and saying, no, I'm not coming, tough. And the stage goes to black, and those kind of black, and then those things get taken off. And then lights sort of come up, and from one side door, this person walks in all dressed in black with a very straight back, and this actress, totally fierce, beautiful actress, carrying a long stand-up can with a candle on the top, and she carries that in so bloody slow. You go, what the hell is going on? This is so boring. And she sets it down. She walks all the way across the front of the stage and sets it down. Then she walks off, same speed. Then she comes back on with a chair at exactly the same speed and walks across. And by the time she sets the chair down and walks off, the audience is killing themselves laughing. And it's just a great, you can't believe how wonderful real clown is when you just commit to something so strongly and there's not hardly an ounce of action going on. And then I come in and snap my fingers to get my clothes taken off and get my house coat on. And I'm exhausted from my day of being so goddamn nice. And so glad to be home. And I can yell at her. My shoes fast enough, get into my slippers, or get my coat off the right way, or get me into my gown the right way. It's just a beautiful setup for finding out what a jerk he is, because you might not believe it in the first two scenes, although you realize he is controlling them, controlling weaker people.
Yeah.
So, and that gown, that house coat that the director said, I can't send you into the world out there with the sleeping cap on and in a nightgown. I want you to look good. And him and the director, him and the designer worked this all out, and they came up with that coat. So I get to wear that coat through the whole thing, and the flow of that coat, the way it moves and picks up the light, and throughout the whole evening, I look like this marvelous actor, but it's the cloak.
You look like $1 million. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh God. The last time I talked with you, I said, I was asking you about what was going on, and you said that you guys were trying to come up with a way of doing the show or pieces of it. Something is in development on Zoom, and I would love to be able to feature a piece of that, some of the cast, all of the cast, for a preview before whatever it is that you are going to do comes out, to get that featured in some element on Dial the Gate, because I think fans would eat it up getting a chance to see you perform live.
Well, see, the problem, the thing is the actors will not be together. We will all be seated. We will all be seated. We will probably be reading, and from what we remember or recall, or how much work we decide to put back into the script. How many of the faces we'll be able to see in who you're talking to, I'm not sure how it's all going to work. I think they're going to try and they're attempting maybe to get it together well before they present it, so that they can add in photos
Mm.
as we move through the story to show you what that character looks like, to show you what the lighting and the set look like as we move through. But that's starting to get into production values, and theaters aren't making money nowadays.
Right.
So it depends on how much they can find to put this thing together. And they think that's going to air on the 23rd, or I think that's what they were trying for, to air it on December the 23rd, I guess, on Zoom, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that goes through YouTube or
Mm-hmm.
how it works. So I don't know what's going to really be available. I have no idea. I'm not in on this production process of it, other than being the actor. Um, so I don't know what they're going to come up with, but anything they do come up with and they will allow to get out there that I can pass off to you, I certainly will.
Please and thank you. Yeah. The nice thing about Zoom, especially with the actors, if they're all on their own controls, is that they can turn their own video on and off. So if
Yeah.
they're in a scene or they're not in a scene, they can do their, and it'll change the gallery view scene
Yeah.
by scene. So I suspect that it'll work itself out. And if you use a software like I do, it's called OBS, you can put a background on there of
Yeah.
the location that you're in.
Yeah.
So it's just like inviting the audience to go on a journey with you of the imagination, just like any play is. So it's just all it comes down to is the audience's will to go. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and regardless of whether or not we can do something together with the production company, I wish you guys all the best.
Well, thank you.
So, Tom, who are your heroes? Who are the people responsible, directly and indirectly in your life, for making you the person that you've become?
Wow.
No pressure, just that.
I don't know. A lot of people know what they want to do, or which direction they want to go, relatively early in life. And even by the time I got out of high school and stuff, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I mucked around in some labor jobs, and I never thought I was smart enough to go to university until I realized some of the friends I used to hang out with were going to university. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. I don't know how I got that idea in my head. But I did go off and became a computer programmer, and ended up working in Winnipeg, and away from home and new friends. And I'm accidentally at a bar one night ended up getting talked into going for rehearsals for an amateur musical called Oklahoma, and I went, and and it mostly was chasing females. And I belonged to that group for no 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years. But I also, once I'd done the musical stuff, one of the directors got me into his amateur group that did Canadian home written stuff. And then I also joined a couple of other amateur groups doing stuff. So I was actually spending more time mucking around doing theater stuff than I was actually at work. And I decided that I wanted to go to theater school. I sort of got enough encouragement from a couple of people to say, look into it, but don't just decide to be an actor and go do it. Go get some training. So I went off. I managed to audition for the University of Alberta's BFA program, and got in there and spent 3 years there. While I was there, I met a couple of people, but one of them, the one that really stands out, is currently in the hospital, just having had her hip operated on. She fell down and broke it. She's let's see, how old is she? She's 87. She lives on her own in
Wow.
outside of Sault Ste. Marie. Her husband died a few years ago. He was a painter who designed our loonie.
On the coin.
The coin. He died about 4 years ago, cancer. She's lived on her own since, and 2 weeks before, about a month before he died, she broke her leg. And I was there when she broke it. And so she spent I don't know, a week in the hospital, and then demanded that she get out so she could go back to the house to look after him. And I left about that time to come back here to Vancouver. So she did look after him, but over the last 4 years, and I have gone every year to visit them for many, many years, usually in the spring to help put the garden in. And so I have done that until this year, and I couldn't go. Last year, it was difficult. I would have to stop watching her go up and down the stairs. That the bathroom was upstairs and her bedroom was upstairs. And I had to stop watching her because it was just too frightening. She's got all this massive strength inside her, but her body is kind of failing, and she wants to die there. This is where they've decided that that's where they want to end things. So there's no way to talk them into getting out, or talk her into getting out now. But we don't know what's going to happen with this one when she ends up getting out. But she is the lady, a stage designer, who taught one of an odd course that they developed at the U of A. What was it called? I can't even remember. The name will come back. But it was basically teaching actors or teaching students how to understand art aesthetics. What makes art art? Why is say the carving of the lobster fisherman from Nova Scotia or from Maine not really considered a piece of art, and Michelangelo's David is considered a piece of art? Like what in the theater where it eventually comes down where it's acting students. So what in the theater can be considered art, and what's considered to be entertainment? How can you call yourself an artist in the theater, or are you a collaborative artist? How many pieces of inspiration come into you that are someone else's inspiration, someone else's vision for the first time that they've ever brought that up? And then they, like a writer puts it on a page and a designer pulls it from somewhere, maybe steals it, who knows? I mean, a lot of good writers say, if you want to write well, steal. So, and they say Shakespeare did too. So,
he most certainly did.
But it's the way you take those pieces of information and put them together.
Yeah.
And then you bring an actor in and a director in, and more inspiration comes in, or more roadblocks, or more hurdles to climb over. So that course, you had to, the very first thing you had to do was to do a still life of something that made a statement, that had something to say, something that could be argued, something that could be discussed. Some of the students were successful. Some of them were absolutely not successful. One person put up a nice piece of black felt with a vase and a flower in it with the petals. Some of the petals had fallen off. And she was so livid with that student. She says, "We can't talk about that. That's got nothing to, that says nothing. It says nothing. That's all got something to do with feelings and emotion. It's that we want to discuss something. That's too, there's nothing specific enough about that." One guy put up, what did he do? It was a schoolhouse. It's a schoolhouse that he put firecrackers inside and blew it up. And
there's something to talk about. My God.
That kid left before the end of the school year, and this kid could play James Taylor and sing all James Taylor stuff, and everybody just loved this guy, and he could talk a mile a minute, but he was a total destroyer. He was a total manipulator, and he eventually, a few of us sort of ganged up on him at one point in a movement class. He was some, I don't know, I can't remember what he was doing. And we kind of forced him out of the class, and then he went and quit. And then a few years later, a couple of us, some of the lady friends stayed written friends with him, and he was asking for money from them, and some of them were sending him money. And then eventually he was in jail in Florida for something. he was just a fast mover. So that was his little, the destruction thing. And she did talk in theater there, and I heard this sense many times from different people, that in art, you deal with creation, not destruction. You can use perhaps a destructive image to say stuff, but ultimately those things have to create
something.
And mine, I had no idea what she was talking about. This lady used terrible words like gestalt and universal and all these weird terms, and I just thought she was just mouth. And mine, I had a skull. It was an ashtray that you used the mouth to put your ashes in. So there was holes for the eyes and the ears. And so I took that and I put a bunch of twigs in it, in all the holes. And then I hung all religious symbols all over the tree. And I didn't know, I mean, I just said, well, the only reason we have religion is because we're all scared to die. So that was my little thing.
Yeah.
And she thought that was pretty interesting. And so I got a little bit of praise from her, but I still didn't like her. And it wasn't until we got into the next step of things where we had to write a little stage production and produce it, and like get actors to do it and light it and get the setup for it. And it had to say something. And somebody had done something about, I don't know, Coke machine, some kind of Coke machine thing. And at the end of it, we would discuss stuff. If she thought it was worth discussing, she would open up the floor to discuss and say, okay, let's see what this has to say. And at some point, somebody had said something that I didn't quite agree with, so I put my hand up to talk. And then I changed my mind and I put my hand down, and she said, no, Tom, what do you have to say? Because I hadn't said much for the first 6 weeks or so. So I said, no, it's okay. It's okay. Never mind. And she went, no, what do you have to say? Yeah, you were going to say something. What is it?
What was it?
I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, forget it. And she started walking around my chair that I was sitting in. And she started poking me in the back and say, come on, say it. It won't hurt. Come on, say it. Just say it. And I went, oh, for Christ's sake. So I said it. And she said, see, that wasn't so hard. He's got a point. Now, it's not really a great point, but it's a point. So she told me years later, and it wasn't long after that I got to understand all those terms that she used. But she said that was, for her, she said, you were taking over my class. She said, and I had to stop that. See, you were I was the oldest person in the class. Okay. So she said, all these kids were thinking you were a god. She said, I had to fix that because it was my class, not yours. So she said, I decided to push you hard enough to either come across to my side or shut up. And then I would tell you, just shut up now. You can't talk anymore. You're not in my class. You can watch. But you came across and everything worked. So over the next 2.5 years, I think the thing she taught me most was about responsibility. And I don't know if I'd ever understood what that meant as a child growing up, to your responsibility to your parents or your brothers and sisters, or to the school you were going to, or to the class you were in, or to the subject you were taking, or
to yourself.
I don't think I understood responsibility at all. And she said, in the theater, the writer, you have to be responsible to that writer and that writer's vision and his vision of what he was going for. Even if the director decides to take it someplace else, you have to be responsible and accept the director's vision. Even sometimes, or as often as not, is a non-vision. You have to learn to work with that. You can't simply fight it. You have to participate with the actors that you work with. You have to respect what they're bringing or not bringing. And she did say one great thing that has always stuck in my mind. She said, there's no such thing as a bad actor. There's actors and there's non-actors. So if you're working with a bunch of non-actors, the best actors will make those non-actors look good. So that's one of your jobs. If you want a piece of theater to work, you have to get involved with everyone there on the stage, and with the director, and largely with the writer, and you can't simply believe that your way is the only way. So over the years, some of that I took too far for a while, and then when you get out into the world, one of the things she did to say also to me was, look, this is my favorite thing. She said, Tom, you have a small talent. Look after it. So that's meant to me.
Interesting slap across the like. It's a good talent, but it's a little one. Oh my God.
You have a small talent, so look after it. So now, and I understand. I've understood it in many different ways over the years. You can take it as an insult, but she also thought the word talent was a huge word. So, I think she knew. I think she knew that I would never be one of the great world actors. But she did know that I could be she did know that I was a fine actor, that I could get out there on stage and I could carry a show. I could work with people. I had a decent brain. She made me understand that too, that I didn't have to protect it. And sometimes I took that a little too far in protecting what I believed when I got out and first started working. But those things the things she used to talk about came back again and again and again. And as I always did, even from the beginning, had favorite actors I worked with here in Vancouver, that they would just blow my mind what they could do and how they could do it, and how it appeared, how easily they could do it. And then as I've got older, I've realized that there are just so many different kinds of actors, and they all don't work the same. And especially when you get into the film and TV business, it was really tough for a long time working my way into that business, because it's so much different style-wise from the stage, and where I'd worked for years and had been trained in. Just so many things that are different. And so the rapid way you had to learn a scene to go into audition for it. And then if you got the job, had to get to the set, and you had no idea what was going to happen in the next half hour. You had to really keep your mind open. You had to really be on top of your lines. You really had to be accepting of everything that was happening around you, the way the director wanted to shoot it, or whatever changes the DOP made or the cameraman made, or if there were 3 cameras on you and you had to, the way you had to move around the set. All of that stuff is so different from stage work. And you had to be really open to stuff going along. And all of that fed back into stage work for me as well. So it's been a long and still process of learning. And it started with that lady. And I've talked to her 2 times a week for the last 4 years. And she's in the hospital right now, and she's got no phone. So, because she doesn't know how to use it. And they don't have any of the old phones in there anymore. So it's a bit tough for her, and she's been there. I haven't talked to her in a week and a half. So, and she fell on the floor at noon, and the lady who comes to see her every morning to make her coffee and breakfast didn't arrive till the next morning.
Oh God!
At 8 o'clock, and she's
a tough one.
She's really tough. Yeah, and she couldn't drag herself to the couch or into the carpeted area. So anyway, she's tough. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
And a great, and I think a great painter herself, and a wonderful designer too. So, yeah.
You told me something once that stuck with me. If they offer me something and it scares me, I'll do it. I mean, you were George and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and the other George and Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have taken on jobs where I've been, they have been for me a huge challenge. And but it's because the people wanting me have had their arms wide open and inviting me in to do it that gave me the courage to go ahead with it. So I don't think it's simply me saying, "Oh, that's too scary. That's so scary. I have to do it." Um, uh, I know for Virginia Woolf, I said no 3 or 4 times, and
Wow.
I just said, "Look, I'm way too young for this," because I'd only seen older guys
Yeah.
play him, and then it was a production manager who had been pushing me, and she said, "Read the play, read the character description." So I read the character description and found out it was a guy that was my age, and so that that made me say, "Okay, I'll do it." and and it took the first week and a half of rehearsals, and I'd done a lot of work before I started on it. It took me a week and a half into rehearsal before I could drop all those things I'd learned from seeing old guys play them.
Your preconceptions.
And then it became mine, you know. So yeah, it's really hard to leave preconceptions behind.
Harry Maybourne.
Mm.
What a tour de force for you. In many respects, Ebenezer Scrooge. In surprising ways. You came in and you came in season 1 and bowed out in season 8.
Mm-hmm.
That character is fully articulated over the course of those 7 years. And Gate Gab, one of my moderators, and I wanted to ask you right out of the gate here, pardon the pun, about auditioning and getting that part. Now, you tried to get some work on MacGyver for years.
Yes, I did. I never got hired. Yeah, I think I did probably 35 or 40 auditions for MacGyver. A little story I'll add a little bit later with about Michael Greenburg. Anyway,
go ahead.
And he was great about it. I always hated having to audition for military people because I never felt that that first of all that I had the stature or the voice or the looks or the character to be and to me the sides I had were relatively one-dimensional, and I thought, well, maybe that's what they're asking for, is just this one-dimensional thing that SG-1 has to overcome. But I went and I did the audition, and I was amazed that I got a call back, and then I got hired. And that's really when I got scared. And I went in and I got the costume fitting with the beautiful uniform and the hat with the braid and the buttons, and I'd look at it and go, oh, I don't know. Oh God, I don't know. So I got in there, and what was that first one called?
Enigma. That was Enigma. Yeah, there you go. Good for you.
So, well, no, I did my homework today. I finally sat down and went through and decided I'll figure out. And some of them I still don't really know what went on. But, okay. But it's so wonderful that you can go to YouTube and you can get them all.
It's right there. Absolutely.
So I did do a little catch up on it, and as I was watching through all those things, and I probably saw them early on, but I don't think I paid a lot of attention since then. And I think I've gone back and sort of looked at Paradise Lost and Good to Be King, and then the odd little moment in other stuff. But rewatching them, the man in uniform, at times, God, I looked good.
Yes, you did. Absolutely. Those Air Force blues are beautiful.
And I've had in my head, I've carried a long time. I've carried the fact that I really wasn't very good at the military guy. But I think this way. I think it wasn't until season 3, and I went back and I found out, okay, it was Foothold this happened in, and it was the first time that they had allowed me to be human. Up until then, I was an NID guy, and all I did was smirk at them, give them shit, and try to scare them,
And take tilk from them, and
once in a while get pushed back by a few things. But it was, and I think I talked about this particular scene that there was a scene in Foothold that was cut out of the production, probably because of length, or I'm not sure why, but it was with me and Amanda. And it started out with me screwing up Amanda's warning about a foothold and her famous Maybourne, you can be an idiot every day
of the week.
Take a day off. And then there's then we work through it all and we save her. And then at the end, there's a scene in the office with the general and with RDA, and we're doing a clearing stuff up, and they say, "Well, good job, Maybourne." And I say something like, "Well, I'd like to give credit to was she a colonel then?
It was Major Carter.
Major Carter. And they all sort of look at me like, and it takes me a while to try to say it. And she says something, and I say something back, and then I said something like, "Oh, well, perhaps we'll see each other again." And I give her this little look, and kind of embarrassed look, and I hope, well, maybe we'll see each other again. And O'Neill says, "Yeah, that would be nice." And it's like, for me, it's the shock thing. Well, it was that missing scene that made me do that scene that way, because it was in that scene where I had said something to her, and she had looked at me like, "He's human." And I think Maybourne had, at some level, fallen slightly in love with Carter.
Who can blame him? We were all in love with Carter.
Oh, I know. Inside this little part, he'd gone, "My God, what's happening to me?" And so and I can't remember what the scene looked like. I can't remember the dialogue. I don't have any of the scripts and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea what it looked like on the page or what it looked like when they filmed it. But was that little look back to her when I said, "Well, perhaps we'll get a chance to see each other again." And it was just this little
glance,
this little kind of half embarrassed, half excited glance that maybe it'll happen again. And it was not too long after that, I think, which was the following season. Was it Shades of Grey where I get frozen, or
so you get we're skipping ahead a little bit, but yeah, that's Watergate when you get frozen.
Watergate,
yeah, in Siberia.
And I'm out of the uniform after that, and from then on, I felt like I was Maybourne, and I didn't have to be the NID guy. I could be my own mischievous manipulator of things and do it. I didn't have to answer to anybody. There was a joy to it. It was Maybourne on his own, and he could help where he wanted, or he could ask for help when he needed it.
I loved that movement through season 3 and season 4. After that episode in Foothold, "You're an idiot of every day of the week. Why don't you just take one day off?" The next time, and that glimmer of humanity that we see in him. The next time we see him, he's back at his old tricks again. He finds out what's happened with Jack at the SGC and recruits him into his mission. And it's just a descent into darkness for this guy. If you could dispense with the melodrama, as I crank up Pagliacci over here, I'll talk about, joining your team. I think a big part of the arc of Maybourne really starts right there because, after that, he's on the run. He has to get in bed with the Russians just to keep from getting his head cut off.
Yeah. See, those are parts of the build through it that I have forgotten, and I'd have to go back and look at the whole episodes to see really what happens there. And maybe even at the time, I was so confused about it, I would just go and do the scenes because because I often had no idea.
The larger story.
Suddenly I'm I got my own airplane.
Right.
Suddenly,
Exactly.
all this shit, I had no idea I had that kind of power to start with. Now, the writers, I don't know, the character, obviously, they had a lot of fun with. And
Right.
thank God they kept adding, every time I'd come on set, there would be another color in the character that I'd have to incorporate. And as I say, I think the first episode, I kind of started off one-dimensional. But every time I came back, there would be these colors added in. Just the genius of the writing was amazing to me. To finally, jumping way ahead to Paradise Lost and
good episode,
and Good to Be King. Those from where that character started, and they took him all the way through all that stuff and got him to those places. Yeah. Just magical.
Do you want to bring up the Michael Greenburg comment now?
Oh, I can't remember which. I think it was
around Foothold.
It was around. Well, it was season 2 or season 3.
Yeah.
Usually you would at lunchtime they would read the next episode. So if you were in the next episode, you would come at their lunchtime for the episode they were shooting, and everyone get around the table and they would read it, and the characters that knew their characters would talk about. I think we should build on that part a little bit, but I think this part here doesn't land in the character, and this is why I think that. Can anybody tell me, am I right or wrong, or should we muck with that? And notes would be taken and all that kind of stuff. And at one point during the reading, maybe it was close to the end, Greenburg looked down, and I was maybe five seats down from it at the big table. So there were people all around this large table. And he looked down to him and he said, "God, you're a good actor. How come we never had you on MacGyver?" And I looked down the table and I said, "I auditioned for you fuckers 40 times and you never hired me. That's why I wasn't on fucking MacGyver." And
he took it well, though.
And then we laughed like hell.
Oh, God. Oh, man. That is funny. But yes, no, in Foothold, Jack joins his team, and the next time we see him, he's with the Russians, and you're in an industrial kitchen, in a freezer, frozen like a board.
Yeah.
And there's a story there.
Your
poor eyes.
They haul me out and they put me on the industrial kitchen table. And this was a huge kitchen for one of the major exposition sites for Expo 86 that we had here in Vancouver. And they still did a lot of convention stuff in this particular place. So it was a huge working kitchen. So they threw me up underneath the up onto the warming counter with the infrared lights. There was, 3 or 4 or 5 hanging above me where, the meal's cooked, and they throw it out there and keep it warm till the waiter comes in to grab them and take them away. And I'd been frozen with my eyes open. So I was covered all over with, they spritzed me all over with warm wax and then let it dry. And so it looked like ice and frost. And then they snowed it and did all this stuff. So I'm laying there and they're thawing me out underneath there. And eventually I thaw out. And
just the eyes. It's the creepiest scene.
And then I sit up and I start to walk around in funny ways. And O'Neill pulls out his gun and says, "Maybourne, stop this." And I turn around and I walk past him again. And I get so far and he says, "Stop or I'll shoot." And Tilk is standing down there towards the end. And suddenly I stop and do a freeze and then fall onto my knees and I vomit. And then I stand up and I realize that the vomit is the stuff that is
the entity
alive, but it's also the bad thing. So I grab O'Neill and I throw him into the freezer and Tilk gets the stuff, and then it all continues. And I eventually end up in jail. to be hung for treason.
Right. Oh,
And
man.
so um, later in the day, as we continue to film, uh, my eyes start to kind of fog over, and they feel kind of odd, and things are getting blurry, and not extremely so, but enough for me to start to worry about it a bit. So I went to the first aid person, and she looked and she said, "Oh no, I look fine." And they give me some eye drops and stuff. And during the day, they got a tad better. And it wasn't until when I got home and they were still foggy and weird. And I went, "Oh my God, I was lying there underneath these infrared lamps and got my eyeballs cooked." So they had obviously done something to part of the eyes.
How long did it take to clear up?
It was only 2 or 3 days or
But
4 days.
still, how scary,
Yeah, for someone for someone in the in the community of Stargate that have all this knowledge, no one
Right?
knew I was getting my eyeballs cooked.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Oh,
In the very next episode, we see him on death row,
mhm.
and Jack goes in and says, "Hey, we need your help here." He's like, all right, I'll help you. Get me out of here. Get me one of those nice, pretty presidential pardons." That great exchange, the Starsky and Hutch, which I think, if I remember correctly, you said that was an ad lib from Rick with Ronny Cox. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us that story. It's a great story.
Well, it was actually his wife was at the door. She came to the door first, and they wanted to talk to the senator. And she says, "Well, who's calling?" And he said, um, "I'll just tell him it's Starsky and Hutch or whatever." And I looked at him, and
This is not in the script.
it's not in the script. And I look at him, and then he goes, "He's Starsky, I'm Hutch." He looks at me, gives me a look like, "Huh?" And then he goes, "He's Starsky, I'm Hutch." And I'm going to stand there and just go, "Mm, yeah." And she says, "I'll be right back." And she closes the door. "You bastard."
It's like he wanted to throw stuff at you just to watch you dance, in the heat of the moment.
Well, I do think, and that wasn't the only time that he would change something up.
Mm.
Um, and I was told that he really enjoyed working with me, and I certainly enjoyed working with him. So much so, especially in the later part of stuff. Um, but even before that, the back and forth stuff was fun too. But I think he used to throw those things there just to see my face, just to see this absolute fear in my face as I had to work my way through it and continue. And I think he got a lot of joy out of that.
Absolutely. There's chemistry there that is just there's an odd couple chemistry that is just undeniable, and I think it's one of the reasons the reason that they kept on having you back was because it worked.
Mm-hmm.
They would put you guys in situations where you had to work your way out, and it was hysterical for us as audience members to watch these two people who don't really like each other all that much, but they recognize the utility in each other. That, all right, here we go. I got to get back together with Maybourne and pull this thing off because he's the only one who can get me out. Was just hilarious.
Yeah, I totally enjoyed that, man. Yeah.
Paradise Lost. Fishing with C4. One of my favorite scenes. It's just wrong on so many levels.
Well, even looking at how I manipulated everyone to get through the gate and him jumping up
with the hot dogs and lighting the gate coordinates on fire.
Yeah, and actually taking out Carter with that thing, like oof.
Yes.
Yeah. So there we were, just the two of us, in the middle and apparently nowhere, looking for this place that ultimately has been decaying for hundreds of years. It didn't really exist, or didn't still exist, and having very little to eat. We did find a certain vegetable there that we could eat, which ultimately in the episode drives us both a little crazy. Um, but at one point, when we're sort of only, well, I don't know, I think we were starting to get a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been off somewhere on my own after an argument or something,
And Jack's been eating
O'Neill,
more fish than you have, so you've been getting much more of the compound than he has, just to set up people who haven't seen the story in a while.
So O'Neill's down fishing,
Yeah.
and so I walked down and asked him how he's doing. He says a couple of nibbles, not much. And so I reach into my pocket and pull out something and look down at it and take it and throw it into the water. And there's an explosion. And all these fish come to the top. And he just gives me this look like, what? And I walk, I'm instructed to walk in, the cameras are all around, walk into the water, and I'm supposed to take fish and bring the fish back. But there were so many fish that I just started, I'd grab a fish and then I'd throw it at him. And I just kept throwing fish at him. And he was jumping around. God, it was fun. Those kind of times were great when you could just jump a little bit off the script, and it was fun. But also, it was also in there where that I was told that, well, Maybourne was special ops, and I went, I was special ops. Yeah, no, we're 6 seasons later, and I was special ops. They said, yeah. So
you didn't know?
I'm supposed to know how to fire all these weapons.
Yeah, munitions and yeah.
So at one point I'm supposed to start throwing, what's the stuff? The plastic explosives?
Yeah, the C4.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be throwing it like grenades over the wall, at little chunks of it at O'Neill over in that part. And I said, I don't know. How do I do this? They said, you're special ops. You're supposed to know this. I said, I don't. And I wasn't. So I had to teach me how to.
Yeah, properly.
I didn't want to do it like I'd seen, the old black and white movies, because I didn't know if that was real.
Yeah, there's got to be a right way to do it, of course.
That was fun.
My personal favorite Maybourne moment is 48 hours, and Jack's getting gas.
Oh, this one, yeah. That scene, yeah, that's a good scene, huh?
The truck between them is the only thing saving Maybourne's ass, because he thinks that the last time they saw each other that Maybourne shot him. Yeah. You rat bastard! I'm so gonna kick your ass. You had said there was the last time that you and I were together, you had mentioned your favorite moment is 48 hours. Jack accuses Maybourne of being a traitor, and Maybourne stops, and he turns around and he marches straight back to him. Yeah. He says, "Do you believe that?" And Rick and O'Neill are completely disarmed by, because Maybourne's he's never been like that with him. Yeah. And you deliberately took a moment there to be like, okay, you jerk, I'm working with you here. Are you really going to accuse me of doing this right now when, your friend is in danger?
Yeah. No, yeah, it was, yeah, you drop everything and just say who you are. Mm-hmm. It's not protective. It's not anything else. It's
when we finally got to see him after the incident on the planet with the skeletons and the Paradise Lost, he had come a bit of a long way. Kieran, when we were back at the Gate convention, Kieran had mentioned that his favorite moment of Harry is the opening shot where we're seeing his village, and Maybourne I think he's enjoying like a fruit or something with all the girls around him, and the team walks in and he's like, "Hi guys, how you doing? Tell us about It's Good to Be King."
Well, what a surprise when they'd say you're coming back, because
you took a year off.
I wasn't in season 7, and then when the script came up and it was there, It's Good to Be King, and I'm in the whole episode kinda, and you just go, wow. because they have most of the episodes, there were 2 or 3 stories, at least 2 stories going on at once.
Right.
In this one here, it was largely just one large story. Um, uh, and it was just well, and then you add that, you walk into your costume fitting, and you got furs, and you got a little crown. And then you get on set, and they do have all these ladies around, and you can just snap your fingers for stuff.
He's a king.
It was very different from the Maybourne I knew.
Absolutely, I would suspect so. And going up against Wayne Brady, who was the Jaffa. I think it was Trelac. I think is.
Oh, I don't know what the name.
Yeah. It was a good send off to a character who had come full circle, who had just started off as this hatchet guy wanting to kill everyone, all the aliens in the gate room, to someone who had taken a look at his own soul. And either he recognized that he was flawed, or just every little bit of trying to trying to move in the right direction with people, he was recognizing, he was liking the dopamine hit of being a nicer guy. I think it's what's interesting about Maybourne is that he was never, his objectives were not exactly exclusive from SG-1's, but his way to go about it was just completely different. He did want to protect the Earth from alien interference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think, yeah, it's but you can also look at it in a couple of ways. Like you can look at Trump trying to save America the way he wants to, and then the way maybe we should go about it.
Right.
So I think his was more in the well, let's see, more in the destructive way of it. But it's also what you grow up with, and your understanding of the world, and he understood it in a certain way, and ran with that baton in that direction. And then as he moves through that, he gets hit with real life stuff and starts to become educated, starts to become human, even though he was human to start with.
Right.
He had a very narrow vision, and he probably had a narrow vision from the time he was a young person, on how to get out there and participate in the world.
If there was any single scene that I loved, in terms of watching this character become one thing into another, it's the scene where you guys were down by I forget where it is, the location where they made it look like Jamaica.
Oh yeah.
And Maybourne is calling the SGC. How he got this number, I have no idea. But Kinsey arranged for Maybourne to be moved to another place while he awaits his execution. And there, you took an opportunity with a background actress and ran with it. Tell this story one more time.
Well, if any of you have been to Vancouver, you may have been to English Bay.
English Bay, that's it.
Which is a beautiful. Was it English Bay? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, English Bay. Yes. So, but not quite English Bay. So it was more towards Sunset Beach, but it's the same area. And it's a beautiful ocean thing with a False Creek across the way, and you can see the Gulf Islands. It's not the Gulf Islands, but West Vancouver and stuff, and some of the islands. And they wrapped the telephone poles and whatever with hemp and hung fronds off it, and they hired a steel band. And the order went out to get every black extra they could find to come down. And I had on a pair of long socks and sandals, white socks with sandals and shorts, and a T-shirt with a Hawaiian kind of tropical shirt and a big straw hat. And I've managed to see. This was the end of Chain Reaction.
That's right.
Same.
Yeah, they just finished incriminating the senator,
Yeah,
who felt obliged to help.
yeah, and for at some level, either RDA or O'Neill lets me get away, or I manage to escape.
Right.
And they're trying to set this up to be, I think I'm making a phone call from Jamaica.
Yeah.
I think, but I'm actually just at
It's somewhere in the Caribbean. Yeah.
So I make the phone call, and at the end of the phone call, like I've held up the phone so Jack can hear the music, and I hang up, and the director just said, "Okay, now once you hang up, just walk down towards the band now. Just walk down towards the band, and we'll finish off with you just walking away, and we'll go back to the scene in the office with Jack and the general." And so I'm walking down there, and this extra walks right in front of me, and I guess she's been told to walk across, and she does, and I grab her, and we start to dance, and we dance all the way down to the band, and finally they yell cut, and then everybody just breaks into laughter, and I didn't think it was that funny, but and they kept it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
it
little,
really cool.
It's things that like that show, even a person whose motives on the outside are not favorable. There's hope, there's a piece of humanity in there somewhere.
Well, there's a bit of celebration. That was also the episode that Ronny Cox was in.
Yeah.
And playing the senator. And of course, I'd always admired him in what I'd seen him in, and I knew he'd been in a couple of episodes anyway.
Yes.
And but it was so great to meet him, and a lovely gentleman. And he talked about, acting and being a Canadian actor, and he talked about him and his wife. His wife was, in some kind of physics or medical, huge degree out of university with honors, and ended up having to work at a lesser level than what she was capable because she was a woman. And he got out of theater school and was trying to keep food on the table, playing his banjo in coffee clubs. And out of the blue, he got a call to fly to LA to audition for a film because of his banjo playing, not because of his acting. And so he went and he auditioned and he got the part. And it was Deliverance. Deliverance.
Great movie.
And he said, since that time, he said, I never had to audition for anything. And he said, the difference between what I had to do for the years after I got out of the theater school and that particular incident, he said, I was just an actor. And he said, after that, he said, I got scripts sent. I got asked to do stuff. He said, the whole world just changed.
Opened up. From
one thing. But he also mentioned, he said, it was one of the first PT Cruisers, the little Pontiac that they made that looked like an old style van type thing. Mm-hmm. They had just come out, and one of the Teamsters had got one. And so it was the first one that many had seen for real. So he had parked it right up in the front of the senator's house with the big columns and stuff. And everybody was looking at it, including Ronny and I. And he says, we just got a new car, this Lexus, and he gave a number. He said, it's a beautiful car. You should go drive one of those. They're just wonderful. And I looked at him and I said, Ronny, I'm a Canadian actor. And he put his hands up to his mouth. He said, I'm sorry. Oh, God, I forgot. And that's when he told me the story of when he was just a New York actor.
I see. Yeah. For some people, lightning just strikes for them, and you have to be thankful for the opportunities that you've been given, for sure.
Yeah, producer somewhere saw him in a bar or in a coffee house in New York, and looked him up and found out he was also an actor, and away he went.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. You had mentioned to me that you had, I think you had auditioned for Atlantis at some point, or maybe later on in SG-1. and they said you're too recognizable as Maybourne.
Oh no, I actually got sent the audition to do it, and then it was canceled before I got there, just because they said no, everyone knows you as Maybourne, and you can't bring in here as somebody else. No, I understand that totally.
I do too, but it still sucks. You know, the other actors have come in. Garwin Sanford, Anna Grauer. They've played other people with the same face. It just seems frustrating.
Well, I do know back in the old days. Let's see if I can remember which one it was. Well, some of the Cannell stuff, we got in Cannell stuff over and over and over again. Oh, come on, Tom. Oh golly,
it's okay.
Oh, this is really weird because it's one of the big series that came out of Vancouver for years. X-Files.
Okay.
X-Files, I was 3 different characters there.
Yeah.
That's so they didn't care. Like you'd come back and people understood you were an actor.
Yeah.
But I think as things have moved on, that kind of stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. It's pretty tough to come on and play different characters and stuff.
Unobfuscated wanted to know, what was your relationship like with the cast off camera, considering your character, especially so early on, was so antagonistic?
That was one of the greatest sets to arrive on. Everyone, through the producers, the crew, the camera people, and the actor, and I believe the actors set the tone for it. It was when you got a call that you were coming back to that set, you just went, oh gosh, and you come back and you were just embraced as part of the family. And they appeared, whether they were just good actors or not, but they appeared to really enjoy having you back. It was awfully nice. Nice. It was exhilarating.
Claire Cowan wanted to know what it was like being directed by Amanda Tapping in Travelers.
Oh my. Well,
another great role.
Well, it's too bad it was only the one episode.
This is true. It was a good
I
show.
thought gosh, what was the name of the character? It was a French name. Beau something. Beau
Ellis.
Something.
Ellis, Traveler 0014 was a farmer.
Oh, I'm sorry. We weren't talking about her episode. We were talking about we're talking about that series. I thought we were talking about her show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm talking about Travelers. Didn't Amanda guest?
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
yeah, she directed that one.
She's. Once in a while, you'll look over and you see her being serious with somebody about something, but most of the time, it's a great pleasure, and that was, God, I had fun on that one too. That was a ton of fun, and I thought since I had such a low number, they would never kill me.
That's right. 001. This is one of the earlier Travelers. If you have not seen that series, go check out Travelers. It is fantastic. Brad Wright, 3 seasons. It's a good binge. So
yeah, and you'd always have to keep asking Brad questions to try and understand the concept.
Absolutely, he's so far ahead, and the audience were like, "What's more information? You just got to wait." So, the Time Prophet. Have you always been able to remember your lines, or did you develop a technique for learning lines and retaining them? I'm always curious about this as asking actors, because I can never remember a sentence to save my life without reading it.
It's really weird because as I'm getting older, I worry about that more than anything, and trying to learn in 2 days, 3 or 4 pages for an audition I need at least that much time now. Yeah. And still then, if there's too many sentences with too much description and names of chemicals or people or places, I want it to be correct. And if I miss one thing, I fall apart. I can't keep going. I never did have a real facility and was never trained to have the facility to improvise. And I never had much practice at it. And one of the things I may have to practice is as I'm moving into this thing of not really having the lines down 200%, of being able to continue. Um, uh, I never used to see. No, I always did have trouble with too much description of stuff. Um, uh, One of the techniques that you use when you've done enough series television is you just say, I'm starting over, and you go back without a cut. But you got to know when and how to do that. And I haven't done enough TV in the last 4 or 5 years to know when I can do that anymore. So I wouldn't be comfortable trying to do it. I just say, sorry, we have to do that again. Instead of just saying, go back to the beginning, bang, and start over. Because that editing process, as an actor, I've not been involved in this business long enough to really keep that idea in my head that, of course, it's all being edited. So I do like to have, for auditions, I love to have lines for a couple of days. That doesn't always happen, but more and more now we are auditioning at home. So we're doing our own at-home auditions with our blue screen or blue sheet behind us, with the lighting we have and the sirens or the dogs barking outside. And with really no feedback from a director or from a casting director. They do say that they are amazed at the number of people they can now see, which they couldn't when they had to have actors come to their studios to do the auditions, that they can see a much broader base of people. And it may be one of the reasons why some of you feel you're not getting the work you should.
Yeah, Tony Amendola was telling us that at any one time, typically 6% of actors are working. That's, wow, that's small.
What the percentages are. They say if you get 1 in 10 auditions, you're doing fine. I think I get 1 in 16 or 20. And sometimes I can go through, even in the good days, I could go 3 or 4 or 5 months and do numbers of auditions and not get something. And eventually you start to go, well, there must be something wrong.
Well, on top of that, that's a lot of gasoline and a lot of time spent working on material that, doesn't see the light of day.
Nowadays, nowadays I'm not in as much of a rush to get work, simply because it's work. So I've had a long talk with my agent back and forth about what kind of roles are out there. And I say, well, if you think that you were an actor once, if you think this is interesting as an actor, let me read it. But if it's the uncle or the father or the next door neighbor on a Hallmark, forget it.
Yeah, all the Hallmark stuff is shot up in Vancouver. They stamp so many of those things out. It's crazy.
If you need to make dough, it's there to do. If you need an income. And I suppose I do too, but I'm old enough now where I get Canada pension and I get old age pension, and I'm having to take out, thank God this business was the business it's been over the years, because the RRSPs that have been taken by our union and put into an investment vehicle called Actor Fraternal Benefit Society is phenomenal. And every month I now have to take money out of that. I'm obliged to. I can no longer put any in, but I have to take a certain percentage out every year, and I do mine monthly. You can do it once a year or monthly or quarterly. So there's no need for me to rush and get back there unless it's something interesting. So it also opens me up for more theater, but of course now with COVID, that's all gone down the drain. And who knows when it's going to come back. It's coming back in small ways, one-person shows and small audiences and Zoom audiences or Skype audiences. but there's not enough out there for us. The city has a lot of stage actors here. There's a lot of small companies who are looking at their own little stuff, but the big companies where I can work, um, they're basically on hold. So
Scary.
that's sad itself, and it is my favorite place to be is on stage. I love preparing long before rehearsal starts. I love being in rehearsal, and I love basically the first week of a run. I don't necessarily like the following weeks because you've got the experience of that audience, and now what's new?
What's what's going to happen next? There is something all the way back to the 1600s with Shakespeare. There's something magical about being in a small group of people, watching a small group of performers on stage, pretend to be somewhere else, and you are invited to go elsewhere with them on whatever journey that they're going to take you. So
it's a great place to be. It's where I feel the most comfortable. I know, like once you've been something like Stargate as long as I was over that period of time, and know that you're welcome, and then you get a script like It's Good to Be King, you feel like your feet are on the ground. You feel like you're back in the theater. But when you're going for something that you don't know the characters, you don't know the background, you perhaps have auditioned without having seen a script, or perhaps you have seen a script or some parts of one. You still don't have enough knowledge to ever feel like your feet are solidly in the ground, or I don't. Mm-hmm. I'm sure actors who have only done this kind of work, the film work and the TV work, I'm sure they have learned how to get their feet in the ground, just because that's been their life, and that's what they've trained for, and they know when their feet are on the ground. They know when they're handling it well. It's still all. Every time I go back, if I haven't been back in front of a camera for a number of months or a year, I'm nervous as a cat.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's like I have to be retrained.
Well, it shows that you're not arrogant about the process, as well. And there's some excitement to that. So, and an episode like It's Good to Be King, in season 8, bonus territory for a lot of shows to get to a season 8. What is an episode like that meant to be, if not to say to you, job well done, Tom? Come back and put a crown on your head.
It was awfully nice. It was awfully nice.
And it's been awfully nice to have you on. Can you hazard a guess at how many people we've had watching us over the last 90 minutes?
I will not hazard a guess. I don't understand this business either.
1,500.
Oh my goodness.
And a lot of them have been asking, my final question for you, can you tell us a little bit about the art behind you?
About the which? Oh, the art behind me.
Is that Salish?
The large piece is a Gordon Reed.
Okay.
Back in the Expo day. And I think this is the first time they did it in this city. They had done a redo on a very old bridge here that connects, that runs over Falls Creek, the Burrard Street Bridge. And they'd redone it and repainted, well, mostly repainted it. But they had also hung up banner poles to put banners on, and they asked artists to, and they did this all over the city, to make the city look like it was a present, like it was a gift, that no matter where you went, there was things to look at in this city. And Gordon Reed did this piece here, and they were all lined down on either side of the Burrard Street Bridge, and it was a vision. And Karen Conoval, my partner, back then, asked the city for one, and she got one. And it was folded up for many, many years. And we just brought it out when we redid our where the art went in the house. We decided that this thing had to go up. The little colored piece on this side here is one of Karen's pieces of a series she did on the homeless, and only what their home was.
Is that an umbrella?
And it's a man dragging his tent. So the series was called Home, and so it was people that made their little home on a corner.
Yeah.
And her drawings from pictures and visions she'd taken of how people make their home that don't have what we consider homes.
Mm-hmm.
These the black and white ones on the side. That's a street artist's native street artist piece. The photo above is a photo that was given to Karen by the director of oh, I'm not supposed to say.
No, I'm just saying you're wrong.
Okay.
Oh, she's incorrect.
Okay.
It's Andy Serkis's work.
Okay, it's actually Andy Serkis.
His art?
It's his art.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's a picture of them.
It's a photograph that was taken on our first day of filming War for the Planet of the Apes in Tofino.
Did you hear that?
I did indeed.
Okay, the first day of filming in Tofino here on the coast. First
Planet
day
of the Apes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Above that is a gift to Karen from one of her lady friends, and she's had that for many, many, many years.
Wow.
Just a pencil drawing of a man sitting doing some kind of crafty thing at a table.
And then I don't know if they can see.
I see what looks like hands, but like a really elongated.
Hey, let's Karen come in here just for a second. Let Karen.
No,
Okay.
But I'll say.
So she'll.
That is the hand and footprint of Tawan the orangutan, who was my inspiration for Maurice and all 3 Planet of the Apes films. It's a very special piece of mine. So that's his hand and footprint.
Wow. Now
Karen,
she was involved in Planet of the Apes?
Karen played Maurice, the orangutan.
Wow.
In all 3.
Wow.
And Tawan died a few years ago, and that's his handprints. But that was that was his that was her inspiration for Maurice.
Wow.
As she
How
was
lovely.
As she was coming to understand how to play.
Of course, yeah.
In her research, yeah, she met him in Seattle and became great friends with him and the other orangutans down there. And she hasn't been able to see them, the ones that are still there, since COVID. But she's probably every 3 or 4 months, she's gone down and spent weekends with them, painting, particularly for one of the older ladies, but for the other few that are there as well. And they all know her.
Folks, this has been a treat. Thank you so much for sharing part of your home with us and for sharing the stories that you have. Tom, Karen, I appreciate you guys so much. Tom, you're just, I love you to death, man. You're one of my favorite people. And, you know, it's so nice to have you as part of the opening salvo of talent for my new show. So it meant a lot to me to have you come on.
Well, thank you so much. Okay. I'm glad I can help out this project and make it grow too.
I appreciate you so much. You take care of yourself. I'll be in touch about the possibilities of what may come with December, and best of luck with Scrooge in this new format.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening, and all be safe.
Take care of yourself, sir.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Tom McBeath, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in. We currently have 142 concurrent viewers. That's improved over the course of the show. At some point here in the near future, I'm going to have Darren back on for a trivia game, and we're going to go through a lot of the stats for the series, because I'm blown away by the number of international people who are involved, and I think this information is for everyone. In terms of the global audience for Stargate, you deserve to know who's watching, because then we can turn around and provide that information to MGM and the like, and saying, you know, these are the people who are out there who are wanting to watch and consume new content. So we're going to have a look at that and provide that information soon. I have been really negligent in answering some questions that have been placed to me over the last several episodes. I get the talent off and then I just move on to the next one. So I apologize for that. Corporal Hicks 2310 asked, David, what platform are you using for this show? It's Open Broadcast Software, OBS. I think Keith Homel asked the same thing. No, that's something else. Hang on just a second. Yeah. So OBS is available for free. And I taught myself how to use it. So you use the little, I got myself a keypad here to control the gestures with my left hand to toggle between the different screens that we use. For instance, this one. And then with my right hand, turn the system on and off. Keith said, for the fan art segment, have you seen Delphine L's work? She DL&Dies on Twitter. DLANDAIS on Twitter. I have not. I will check her out. A couple of people have sent artwork. I think there's a Sally by a chance. I have been terrible on email. My apologies. I'm probably going to get to that tonight because my back is out and I'm not going to be able to go to work. So I'm probably going to have a chance to check up. I've been sent a few pieces of fan art and I'm really looking forward to using them. We need trivia questions. So if you want to, if you think you're adept at Stargate knowledge, go and check out dialthegate.com. Scroll down to the trivia questions panel. You can't do this on a mobile device. It's not working. So iPads, iPhones, tablets, not a good idea. But if you're using a desktop or a laptop, it will work. And submit your trivia questions to us, easy, medium, and hard. So we will be turning those over to some guests in the future, and I will be creating questions for them. But those are for questions so that they can ask me. We had Robert C. Cooper and Andy Frizzell that I spoke with earlier this week, and Andy did trivia with us, and those two interviews are going to be available on Halloween. Fantastic. Almost 2 hours long each. So those are fantastic, and I can't wait for you to see those yourself. Keith also asked, do I send a confirmation email to people who email art? Yes, I do. So Sally Whitesides, I will be getting back. That is my fault, Sally. I do apologize. I do have the message. Just still getting caught up with a rhythm, a routine for how to do the show. And Stargazer, will you be bringing Jay Davidson on the show at some time? I would love to hear, love to learn how he spoke. I'd love to learn how he spoke. I will reach out to Jay. Jay, I don't believe does a lot of interviews. I would love to have him on. I just don't know if he'll do it. So I will certainly reach out to him and ask. We had Dean on. We're going to be having Roland Emmerich on in the future. I mean, it would be a dream to be able to get the likes of Jay and Kurt and James, and Milia. We've already had Alexis Cruz. Sorry, Alexis. Sorry, man. Yes, we've had him on for the game last weekend for the role-playing game. We will be having Alexis on for a full interview later. That's all I have for you guys here. And if you did enjoy the show, that's the wrong button. See, I'm still trying to get OBS figured out. If you did enjoy the show, it would mean a great deal to me if you would click that like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm, and it helps grow the audience by sharing with other Stargate fans who have not seen the content before. So when you click like or you share a piece of material, it moves the video higher up in the algorithm for YouTube that knows that there are Stargate fans out there who like to search for Stargate content, and it's more likely that that content will be presented to them. And if you want to get notified about a future episode, click the subscribe icon. If you plan to watch it live, I recommend giving the bell icon a click so you'll be the first to know of any schedule changes, which will happen all the time. And clips from this live stream will hopefully, if I can get my button gear, be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. Tomorrow we have director and producer Martin Wood, another one of my favorite humans. This guy, I mean, he is an encyclopedia of knowledge on Stargate. And tomorrow we begin what will hopefully be the first of many interviews, unlocking those doors and getting some answers to some interesting questions. Because all you have to do, I've watched this with Martin and talking with him, all you have to do is give him an episode name and he's off. So it's going to be interesting keeping it succinct for 90 minutes. But he's agreed to do the show, and he's agreed to do future shows. And this is one you're not going to want to miss. Martin Wood is the most prolific Stargate director in terms of the number of pieces that he did. The number of episodes. He did Stargate Continuum as well. And he will be here tomorrow to ask those questions. So go to youtube.com/dialthegate, and you can subscribe and be notified when that show starts streaming. And it'll also tell you what time in your time zone it will begin. I think what time is it tomorrow? I think it starts at noon, 12 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to have to go to bed a little bit earlier tonight. I'm David Reed. I appreciate you sticking around. And you know what? We'll see you on the other side. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.